Today we're going to be making some delicious crab cakes for prostate health and reproductive health with a tropical salsa and an orange-guava beurre Blanc sauce that's out of this world. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. If you're new to this channel, I'm Dr. Jill. And when I'm looking for ideas for recipes, usually the foods containing the nutrients I'm looking for lead me in a certain direction. And that was certainly the case for the crab cakes today. My search for recipes with high amounts of lycopenes and zinc led me in a tropical direction this time. And I can't say I'm disappointed. Guava contains more lycopenes than tomatoes, and watermelons also have lycopenes. And sure enough, guava, kiwi, and watermelon also contain zinc, which is going to be in the tropical salsa. Zinc is also found in shellfish, and that's why I'm using the crab today. But remember that red meat and beans also contain zinc. And of the shellfish, it's actually oysters that contain the most zinc at 52 milligrams in canned oysters per serving and 32 milligrams in raw oysters per serving. That's in only 6 oysters. And at the end, there's going to be a downloadable PDF for you that you can download of the recipe. And let's get started. So first, we're going to start with that tropical salsa. And you can see the beautiful colors here. Everything is chopped to a small dice. And we're going to do 2 kiwis. And then we're going to go ahead and add the mango, which is going to be 1 medium-sized mango chopped. And we're going to get the watermelon next, 1 cup of diced watermelon, which has all of those lycopenes in there that are important for prostate health. And then we're going to go ahead and add 2 tablespoons of red bell pepper, making sure to get all of that out of there. 2 tablespoons of minced jalapenos. 2 tablespoons of lime juice, as well as 2 teaspoons of honey, 1 tablespoon of red onion. That's going to be finely diced. Then next, 1 teaspoon of mint, finely diced or finely minced, as well as a 1/4 cup of chopped cilantro. And finally, we're going to add just a couple other things here, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, just a dash of black pepper, and then finally 2 teaspoons of olive oil. And then we're going to stir that up. And you're going to see all these pretty colors come together. And we're going to let that sit for a while and let those flavors just meld. And then we're going to move on to those coconut crusted crab cakes. Over medium heat, we're going to take a pan and we're going to spray it with some olive oil. Alternatively, you can add a teaspoon of olive oil if you'd like, or both. And go ahead and start by making some of the filling for the crab cakes. We're going to add 1/4 cup of chopped red bell pepper, 1/4 cup of yellow corn. You can use white corn if you'd like. And 1/2 cup of sweet onion. I use Vidalia for this. And then we're going to go ahead and saute this on medium heat until the vegetables are semi-cooked. You want to make sure you have a small dice on the peppers and also the onion, to about the size of the corn. That makes it a more pleasurable bite when you bite into it in the crab cake. But I like to pre-cook these ahead of time because the crab meat, when it comes in a can, is actually pre-cooked. So this is going to take, I'm going to give it 4 to 5 minutes, and then we're going to put this aside once it's done and start with the rest of the crab filling. It's starting to smell very fragrant, and you can see there's a little bit of browning going on, so it's time to turn it off and let it cool down. I'm going to be using canned crab meat today. It's going to be a pound of canned crab meat. And you're going to want to drain this thoroughly before we add it to the bowl. This is a claw meat that I've already shredded up more finely, but left a little bit of chunks in there. So it's kind of the lump crab effect. To the 1 pound of drained crab meat, we're going to add a scant cup of mayonnaise. This is a light mayo. I'm not sure if anybody still uses the term scant. What that really means is just a little under a cup. And you can always add more later if you need to. And then to that, we're going to go ahead and add those vegetables that we cooked earlier. They should be cool by now. Then we're going to add a half teaspoon of salt. I'm going to be using the Morton's Light salt here, which has 50% potassium chloride and 50% sodium chloride instead of all sodium chloride. And that's going to help us with our blood pressure as well. Then I'm going to go ahead and add a half teaspoon of Old Bay. If you don't have Old Bay, you can go ahead and use something like Phillips seafood seasoning or any other seafood seasoning you can find on hand. I used to live in Baltimore, so I really love Old Bay. It just reminds me of so many different things from when I lived there. So we're going to add that, and then we're going to do a half teaspoon of black pepper, which is going to be, I don't know how many turns of this, but I'm going to turn this until it looks like about a half teaspoon. Any fine grater that you have, we're going to go ahead and do a teaspoon of ground grated fresh ginger. There's also a little bit of ginger powder in the Old Bay, so I really like that flavor for this recipe. And finally to this, we're going to go ahead and add a half cup of unsweetened coconut, which is going to make it really, really tropical tasting. And lastly, 3/4 cup of panko, which you can do whole wheat or regular for this. If you want to get those B vitamins, go ahead and use the whole wheat. And this is going to be enough for 8 nice sized crab cakes. Lastly, what we're going to do is we're going to coat these in some more coconut and panko, which I have on a dish right here, and we're going to do that after we form these into 8 different patties. So you can set yourself up a little station with 2 plates with 4 patties on each after you're done. And we're going to also saute these in groups of 4. So we're going to end up with 8 patties, 4 at a time. I like to divide my mixture in the bowl. Just eyeball it till it looks like it's about split down the middle. And then what you can do is split that down the middle. And then we're going to split this one final time. And we should end up with 8 nice sized patties. The panko and coconut on the dish is a 50-50 mixture. I put a cup of each on here. You might not need quite that much. You could start out with maybe 3/4 cup of each and probably have the perfect amount. You can always add more later if you want to. And next we're going to saute these. Okay, so I'm using a cast iron skillet to saute these. I put a tablespoon of butter in there, and I'm going to add about a tablespoon or 2 of olive oil as well. I'd like to keep the oil to a minimum here, but I do want to get a nice brown, crispy crust on these. And I can always add a little bit more oil if I need to. Once that oil is hot, you can tell before it starts to smoke, you want to turn this down to medium or medium-low. You don't want this to get too hot. And once you hear that little tiny sizzle start, it'll be time to throw the first batch of crab cakes in there. So we've got a very light sizzle going on. I'm going to go ahead and throw in the first batch of crab cakes. And we're going to saute these for about 4 minutes per side. And after I'm done with that, we're going to throw them in the oven at 375 for 8 minutes. I love that there's ginger in this recipe because it can counter the effects of any raw fish, although this crab meat, like I said, was cooked. But that's why they serve ginger slices with sushi, to make sure you don't get any ill effects from that raw fish. So I have these cooking in a cast iron skillet because I want to get that additional iron from that cast iron, but you can use any type of pan you want for this. So I've got all of these flipped. We're going to go ahead and do another 4 minutes, and we'll put them on some paper towel to drain a little bit. So as you can see, while these are draining, I'm going to cook the next batch. They turned out nice and brown and crusty. I'm going to go ahead and cook the other 4. We're going to pop these in the oven now for 8 minutes at 375. And while those crab cakes are cooking, we're going to do the final step, which is the orange-guava beurre Blanc sauce. This is the pink guava nectar that I'm going to be using for this recipe. And usually it's found in the international aisle at the grocery store. For this orange guava beurre blanc, we're going to start by reducing some fruit juices. So we're going to take the juice of one freshly squeezed grapefruit over medium heat. We're going to go ahead and add the juice of one orange to that. Then we're going to add, this is that guava juice, it's very pretty colored. 1 cup of that guava nectar. And 1/2 cup to 1 cup of dry white wine, like a Sauvignon Blanc. And lastly, a tablespoon of shallots. So we're going to let this reduce down to about 1/2 cup. I think we're about there. And if you'd like, you can go ahead and strain the shallots out of this or not. I think I'm going to leave mine in this time. But it looks like when you look at it, we have about 1/2 cup. So I'm going to turn the heat off and add the butter. Yes, 2 full sticks of butter for this one. But that's what makes it so good. And when this butter is melted, we'll be ready to serve the meal, and I'll show you how I plate it for a romantic dinner for 2. I'm going to serve the crab cakes with these delicious purple sweet potatoes. They have a floral scent. They are from Stokes County, North Carolina. So here in North Carolina, there is also a purple sweet potato of a Hawaiian variety, as well as a Filipino purple sweet potato called an ube. If you can find these in the store, you're going to love these. They have a sweet taste and they're dark purple inside, which you'll see soon. You can also add butter if you'd like. I'm just going to do the honey because of the butter in the orange guava beurre blanc. Here's that pretty sauce. Very pretty pink. And that's mainly from the guava and a little bit of the grapefruit color. You put a little puddle of that on the plate. Don't be surprised if somebody asks for more. And these crab cakes are nice and crispy. And then finally we have that delicious tropical salsa. And that's going to add just a little bit more color to the plate as well. Try not to get a lot of that juice in there. The rest of these crab cakes will freeze nicely, and you can also take them out, leave them in the refrigerator, take them out the next day, put them in the air fryer for about 5 minutes, and you'll have them nice and crispy again. For now, I think we're missing one final touch, and that's going to be a beautiful orchid. And orchids are actually edible. That just really makes the plate gorgeous. There is one orchid that has a fruit that we commonly use in our kitchens, and that would be the vanilla bean. So let me show you the final product here. I don't think it gets more colorful and beautiful than that. Another thing I wanted to say about the purple sweet potatoes is that they do contain anthocyanins, which is that purple color that you see there. They are flavonoids and they have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects. In fact, they did one published review where they showed that certain flavonols have been able to reduce the risk of prostate cancer, like those found in tomatoes, for instance. So here we have it. I'm going to show you what this looks like on the table. And here we have it, a romantic dinner for 2. Join me next time, and be sure to print off the PDF for this recipe, which is below the video.